a couple seniors from Chicagoland, Abbey Taute, Grant Bochenski. So we'll let them tell you about the season so far and what's ahead for the Tigers.
Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us a little bit. As he mentioned, head coach Andrew Grevers. To give you a little update on where we're at in the season, where things are headed. We have had 3 dual meets on the women's side, 2 on the men. We won the first meet against Arkansas at Arkansas. That's a nice victory. They edged us out at SEC championships last year, and we certainly want to make a statement by beating them at home out the gates. And the women had a big victory there, won it by a lot of points. And one of the highlights of the meet was, of course, Abby winning the 2 back. She's joining us today. We had the next 2 meets at home, a couple tough losses to Purdue. They were really ready for us. If you want me to elaborate on that, I could do so later, but they made sure that they were fresh and ready for the dual meet here in Columbia. And then we had another one against A&M. A&M would be considered to be ranked considerably above us, and we really took it to them. They did come away with the 2 victories, but we were way closer on the women's side than anyone would have expected, and it kind of came down to the end on the men's side as well. So we're into the season. As far as results go, it maybe doesn't look as good as we are seeing it at this moment. We spent a lot of time thus far really honing in on the culture, honing in on how our athletes prepare for the championship meets. So it means a unique sport, and the fact that these dual meets have no impact on our ability to make postseason. We are going to SEC championships with 22 men and 22 women no matter what, and then whoever qualifies for NCAAs, we get to go to that no matter what, provided we meet those criteria. And that is what we're all in on, being the best conference team we can be and being the best NCAA championship team we can be. So the men and women have put a lot of time into our values, our core values, into supporting one another, into getting to know each other well through different vulnerability skills that we've been doing. And ultimately, even though we didn't come away with wins in the Purdue and A&M meet, the way our team came together at Purdue and then improved on that against A&M is very exciting for the putting us in a great trajectory for the rest of the season. I'll share that next up is the Invitational in Georgia, Athens, Georgia. It's called the UGA Invitational, Georgia Invite. We plan on competing against Georgia, Florida, Alabama, LSU, and ourselves. So it's kind of little mini SECs there. SEC championships this year are also in Athens, Georgia. So it's an incredible opportunity for our athletes to work on the routine, get comfortable, make that pool our own, and set ourselves up for a great postseason along those lines. So very excited where we're at. I think the athletes to highlight are the athletes that are with us today. Abby is thus far undefeated in the 2 back in the 3 competitions this season. Grant has more than a handful of wins between individuals and relays. Just to share, because we don't have any divers here today, we've been up against some of the toughest diving teams in the country with Purdue and A&M, walking away with a couple wins, one on the men's side, one on the women, and again, seeing incredible progress toward our end game, which is being the best postseason team we can be. So hopefully that gets you all up to speed. I look forward to answering questions later, but now I defer to Eric. What's next?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and take your questions first for Coach, and then we'll take student athletes after that.
Coach, you kind of talked about how Purdue was ready for you guys. Like, what was that story?
So swimming's unique in the fact that there's, I use the verbiage making deposits, like bank deposits, right? There's times to deposit money into the bank, which is a lot of hard work, really grinding it out in the weight room. Swimming's a unique sport where you are training in volume so much greater than what you are actually racing. So these athletes are getting ready for 50s, 100s, 200s, right? But they're swimming 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 yards of practice. And that takes its toll on an athlete, right? So we were in a phase of making deposits, working hard in the weight room, hitting the max. I think we were even maxing out the week of Purdue on the men's side. Some of the women were as well. We were training our highest volumes the week of and the week before, right? and we were clearly looking at it as a great opportunity to race against Purdue in the effort and hopes of winning, even though we were in a challenging part of the season. They were swimming times, and there's another aspect I haven't really quite covered, but in swimming you get to wear tech suits. If you look, we are a tier team. We use tier as in TYR, and these are suits that go from just above the knee to above the waist on the men, just above the knee to over the shoulder for the women, and there's a lot of coverage, and this is a special textile material that basically repels water, helps bring a little buoyancy, and really allows you to perform great. Some of the coaches out there don't want to wear those every opportunity you can, even though we're allowed to. Some coaches don't want to wear it all the time. It is my philosophy that we should wear it every opportunity we have, because we want to reinforce our end of season habits, our race habits, every opportunity we have. But I've also learned over my now 5+ years of head coaching that if we suit up without our competition, it doesn't cultivate the competitive environment that maximizes our athletes' ability to fight, right? To push themselves to the max and learn how to swim with someone in their face. So Purdue really did not want to suit up, and we obliged. But the funny thing is they got their athletes fresh, which means they probably, I'm not in their practices, I can't see what they're doing, but probably just freshened up a little bit. They had, a travel day, and then they swam light, and then the morning they came in for a half an hour swim light, like just did the things that they needed to do to maximize their performance on that day. And it's always intriguing to see how fast they are in that scenario versus where they were a few weeks earlier, even in those tech suits. They were faster, unsuited is the verbiage we use. So it kind of was a little telling in how prepared they were. Good question. Although I think I fed it a little bit, didn't I?
Coach, just looking a little bit more broadly at the landscape of college athletics, with the pending NCAA House legislation, what are some of the challenges of coaching an Olympic sport in this era, and what are some of the conversations you've had with the administration about the future?
I certainly understand that question. I think the problem is I don't really have an answer at this point in juncture, simply because I don't have all the information, right? We are having conversations, lots of them, and it's an ever-changing environment. It's really hard to anticipate where the final landing area is. We're doing our best to continue to communicate to our recruits, to our coaches. We want to make sure that everyone understands that we value honesty, we value openness, but I guess at the end of the day, I don't really have a concrete answer for you, because it's just so many unknowns still out there. Yeah.
Coach, can you talk about how pleased you've been with the team in terms of setting personal best this season?
Yeah, very pleased. It's so much to the point where we are now trying to find a better way to celebrate it. So we're putting together some bag tags, very common in sport swimming, these tags you put on your swim bags, right? And we are now recording every lifetime best, compiling a lovely list, putting them in bag tags and dispersing to the athletes. So, since being head coach, we've kind of kept an eye on it. I think we've hit, one season we hit something like 300 lifetime bests in the entire season. We are well on that, and we have less competition dates this year, so if we can crack that would be an all-time high for us, and certainly think we're on that trajectory again. So very excited about what they're doing so far, and expecting a lot more in Athens.
I think it was at the Purdue meet, somebody mentioned that there were a couple of people on the team coming off of illnesses. Can you talk about where the team's at health-wise right now?
Yeah, I think it's something you're always going to, certainly with the sportswomen, again, the way that we demand so much of the body, right? So much. You put on the physical, that physical demand, and on top of the mental and emotional demands, you're putting the athletes in a challenging space, right? And we have an incredible trainer, incredible support, where we're trying to give our athletes every opportunity to avoid that kind of sickness, but sometimes people just get sick and it can spread, and we're always working in close proximity, whether it's in the water or at the weight room or in our zoo style meetings. We've hit some bumps. Right now, I think we're as healthy as we've been, which is pretty exciting, and we need to stay there. I think the month of December and January will be challenging again as we really continue pushing the athletes' bodies to their limits. But overall, I would argue this is probably the best we've been in a few years as far as keeping athletes as healthy as possible at this time of year.
Coach, what are you guys focusing on heading into this Georgia Invitational?
We are focusing on our team presence, right, and implementing all the details we've been working on up to this point. So details are starts, turns, finishes, right? but it gets a little bit more elaborate than that. Maybe how many dolphin kicks off every wall, right? Where in the race do we want to attack? You know, a lot of times we talk to athletes about attacking the third quarter of the race. It doesn't really apply to 50 free, hardly applies to 100, but once you start going 200s and above, there's different race strategies. And we've been working on all these details all season long to this point, and now is our opportunity to wear tech suits. We are going to be a little bit fresher. You know how I alluded to before that, you know, there's opportunities to freshen up. We're not going to be tapered by any means, but we're going to be a little fresher for this meet and give our athletes every opportunity to obviously go lifetime best, but even better, qualify for NCAAs and start to establish that roster for the big meet.
Questions for Abby and Grant?
Abby and Grant, kind of question for both of you. Like, when you were entering college in 2021, it was fresh off the NIL being like allowed. So like, how would you compare the landscape of college athletics throughout your time with NIL existing? I was just curious about that.
Yeah, it's very weird because that first year, I remember my freshman year, it was very, like, it caught very quickly, I'd say, with, you know, the revenue sports like baseball, football, and basketball. I'd known a lot of the guys, they had quickly gotten into that kind of realm. I would say it took about a year and a half, maybe, for swimmers to really start to embrace it, and now, like, I had gotten involved with it. It's just a lot more, I don't know, it doesn't really add anything, like, on your plate. It's just like, it's another avenue you can take to, you know, try to build your brand, especially if you're planning on, you know, doing your sport after college. You know, it's really helpful, and it really doesn't impede, I would say, anything, at least on our side, so yeah.
For me, I'm not involved in any NIL, but I have teammates like Grant or former Mizzou athlete Jack Dahlgren, who's now swimming professional, and it's just cool to see them build their name and build their brand and just support them from this athlete side, like being able to invest in their name and what they're supporting.
And speaking of like former MU athletes, seeing some former MU alum in the pool in Paris this summer, what was that motivation like in the off season to see people from Mizzou kind of get to the biggest stage in your sport?
I think it was really exciting. It was motivating. Just being able to see that Mizzou Tigers were, like, that name was a lot bigger than just here in the U.S. and like having representatives internationally. I think that was super exciting. We had a teammate of ours, Clement Secchi. He actually won, was it bronze in a relay, and just being able to support him in the U.S. and it was just really, it was amazing to watch.
Yeah, I was in contact with Clement pretty much the entire time. He was keeping me updated, and I was giving him all the love I could. It was really cool to see because one, I had known when Clem was here how badly he wanted to go and just like how much he invested into swimming. Like, not just in the water, like almost every aspect of his day was curated to his health and wellness and swimming. So like to see it pay off for him and to see, because like then a lot of us started to realize like how impactful that stuff is. So it was not only cool to support one of your teammates and have him kind of show the world Mizzou, but it was also like what a great example of what you could do if you really put all your energy into it. So.
Abby, you've got a really solid win streak going. What do you contribute that success to?
I think it's just the team and the coaches, trusting the training and putting it all on the line for like the team and wanting to have the best outcome of the meet. Like we really value those points and knowing that I can make a difference in winning events. I think that's my contribution to the team.
All right, anything else for our athletes? All right, Abby, Grant, Coach, thank you for your time today. Appreciate you all.
Appreciate you
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.